Hello there. I wanted to take a moment to showcase the entire Formstack integration between Creatio and Formstack. So here we're going to start with Forms, and then we'll move on to Documents, and then incorporate a little bit of conversation around the sign product. So starting with Forms, you can see here we've got a standard form. Nothing too special per se about it, but just wanted to illustrate that we have a form, and while it might look very simple, it is truly a little bit more complex. So within Formstack on the admin side, you have the ability to create forms using drag and drop. Here we've curated a form that allows you to segment off two different sections. One area is going to be talking about personal banking, and we have another section below that that talks about business banking. So you'll notice that on some areas we have these little logic tags, the purple indicated here, as well as this entire section, which is highlighted in purple. So from a conditional responsive perspective, you have the ability to show and hide or make required, unrequired certain fields in the form based on a set of conditions. The trigger that we've established for both of these examples is based off of the services of interest. The details of marking other will only show whenever someone clicks on the other checkbox, and the business banking area will only show when someone selects the business banking option. So here you can see an entire form, nothing really all that special. Top to bottom, that's what it looks like until you click the business banking, and now the about your company fields all show and become required. As outlined with red, the fields that are not required but would be good to fill out are everything else. Additionally, you have the ability of putting in calculated fields. So here we have previous year revenue, no dollars in previous year expenses, so therefore we're recording a $200,000 previous year profit. But if we put in a $50,000 previous year expense, we now are automatically calculating the previous year profit. So those are just very high-level instances on what makes this pretty special. This allows you to solicit customers for specific information and ensure that the data that flows into the other system or the receiving system, in our case Creatio, it is calculated and accurate, so removing the potential for human error in these cases. So moving on here, there's really nothing else that I have to do. I've filled out the form, and now I just want to submit it. So if I scroll down to the bottom, click Submit Form, it's going through, submitted, confirmation message. If I go to Creatio now and click on my leads, you'll see that we have a new lead coming in from Test McTest with the same information that we just put in for the date and time recorded whenever someone clicked the submit button. If we actually go into it now, we have the ability of seeing some additional information. So here is everything that was put in here, and we've also got the ability to possibly run a process if we wanted to create documents. But before we get there, let's talk a little bit more about the future of the Formstack Forms connector that we've developed. So as you've noticed, in some cases we have no pre-fill URL here, but we also have one here. So what this does is it incorporates the other side of the Formstack Forms product. So not only can you solicit brand new people for information that have no relevance or no record in your current CRM, but if you have a record within your Creatio system that you want to solicit for updated information, say you're a student, say you're a financial organization, and you want the customer to confirm details outside of a portal, you can use the pre-fill capability. So if we click this, we are now directed to a form where those three fields are filled out. So first name Basil, last name Malik, and my email address. And if you look at the URL, you can see that it's got it embedded here. Your name equals Basil, your name last equals Malik, email equals the email address. So if you think back to the use case that I just described a second ago about updating student information or updating a customer's financial account information or profile information, we can actually embed the Creatio GUID, which is the unique ID. So if we go into any one of these, say this one for example, you'll notice in the URL at the very end, you've got this unique identifier. This is the GUID. So we can actually embed this on the form, hide it, that way no one can mess with it, so that whenever the form submission comes in, rather than creating an entirely new record, it can go to that specific record within Creatio and update the information that was provided. Whether it's the exact same or if it's updated information, it allows your end user to choose how the information is going to be updated. Now, let me close some of these tabs out here because I've got this curated in a very specific way. So next we'll talk about the documents integration. So we've seen how forms work, and now where forms end, documents can pick up pretty seamlessly. So in the previous use case, we've got leads. It doesn't really matter if it's leads or if it's another area of the Creatio system. We can create Formstack Documents templates within the system, within the Formstack platform, in a very similar manner. Here I've copied and pasted a Word template directly into the form builder, and I've ensured that the merge tags are here, as indicated by the curly braces and the $sign preceding the field name. So these become very important whenever we're pushing data from any other data source, in our case, Creatio, into a Formstack Documents template. So here we can expect to see changes to this document to come into these particular places here, as well as this information here. And if we scrolled, there's a couple more here, but if we scroll to the very end, we can actually see the end here. Now this is a very simple document template. There's no conditional logic that shows and hides certain areas. It is just very straightforward. Bam, here is your document template, merge data into it, and you're done. If I click on here, this one is intended to be paired with that personal banking and business banking form example that we showed you earlier. And here we've got the name, email, all the fields that were on the previous form go in here. And we have the ability, as you can see right here, to build in the conditional logic to highlight that we want to show certain areas of the system based off of the presence or absence of data on the form. So here we want to call out that we want to show the following section as indicated by this tag, which I'll just color this here so you can see it, make it a little bit gold, and I'll scroll down to where the tag ends, which is down here. And if I actually wanted this entire section here to show, I've now got my conditional logic in here to only show me this particular page if and only if the services of interest includes business banking. So now we can actually choose what we want to show within a responsive document template. So we can actually have just one document template, but multiple use cases for it. So now this can go to a brand new customer for signing, as long as they've A, submitted the information, and B, they'll see both pages for signature if and only if they are a business banking customer or have an interest in business banking by selecting the services of interest box. Okay, so that's all well and good. Document management, responsive documents, that's cool. However, what makes this particular integration so powerful is what you can do with the actual document management combined with returning that document back into Creatio at whatever point that you want. Right now our connector really only allows you to bring in fully signed and executed documents, but eventually our hope and goal with the documents connector is to make it possible for users to select when they want documents to flow inside of Creatio versus when do they want them to be fully executed and flow into Creatio. So there's more than one entry point, it's just certain areas are a little bit more technical by comparison. So within Creatio, we are at the account level at this point, and we've got buttons that can be used to generate documents. Now we've got two options as far as how we would suggest as a best practice to put buttons on the screen. So if you've just got a single button, i.e. you just have one document that you need to generate on a pretty consistent basis from a screen, you can get away with just putting one button on the screen. But in some cases, people have a need for multiple buttons, multiple different document templates that they need to generate. And if that's the case, creating a stacked button like this allows you to put all of them under one button so that you still have a pretty easy way of generating documents directly from Creatio into Formstack. So here we're going to click the Generate NDA button. We get a notice that the generation has been sent to Formstack for processing, which is what we want to see. Let's close that. And in the back end, what we should see is some emails coming through. Let's get rid of that one. From Formstack indicating that we've got some things that need to be processed. So as an admin, I will see that I just get the notice that it's been sent for signature, and that's really all this email entails. But if I close that, I can now see that the signature process is starting. So person number 1 is going to be signing here, formstack at ss-adv.com. So if I click review and sign, it's going to open up Formstack Signs signature screen. Here I can see as the person signing, does this look good? Okay, yay, looks lovely. I'm ready to sign. I can either click the start button, which will just take me to the first signature item for me to click into, or I can just click the sign here. I can decide how I want my signature to look. So if I actually draw it, let's just say Andrew Baker. Done. Next, submit the document again. We have these pop-ups because there's a difference between electronic signature and digital signature. One is more compliant than the other, and Formstack Sign adheres to the way that is the most compliant. So now that that's done, I will go back to my email address, and you can see that I now have another notification. So here we are now sending it back to the person that began the transaction. I was the one that clicked on the button, so therefore it's sending it to me to countersign. We had 2 locations on the document that required signature. The first one was the customer, and now it's going to be our employee's signature as well. So same thing, I'll actually click the start button so you can see that it just centers the screen on the signature field that needs to be addressed, or the first one that needs to be signed. Click to sign. Again, I can decide how I want it to look. There we go, that's fancy enough, right? Looks like a doctor. Go on to next, submit the document, and officially everything has been signed. Both parties have signed, therefore both parties are going to get executed copies of the document. So let's clean up my inbox before they get here. So those emails that I just deleted were the notifications, and now I'm getting the actual documents that were executed by both parties. So if I open this up now, I can see that I've got a valid signature line indicator at the top. And if I scroll to page number 2, I can see my lovely handiwork directly on the screen here. And for posterity's sake, if you go to the last page of the document, you can actually see the document completion certificate, which validates the trail or the path that the signature request has traveled to make sure that different IP addresses, viewed, signed, timestamps, all that good stuff. All right, but more importantly, the thing that I love the most about this particular product is if I go all the way back into Creatio, click on the Attachments tab, I now have that attachment directly within the system here as well. So now that we've got our document generation and our signature capture somewhat integrated to draw the fully executed document back into Creatio, I can now start firing other business processes. So anytime there's a new account attachment, I can have it go and check Creatio, maybe even look at other objects to see if there's something pending or awaiting signature, and see if there's a match. If there's a match, I can then move my workflow process from awaiting signature to things that I want to have happen, whether it's building activities or things of that nature, immediately upon the agreement being fully executed by both parties. So this is really where the power of both platforms come into play. There's an inherent ownership of the things that make the most sense in the areas that do it the best or do it the most effectively. So depends on how you really want to frame it. I know some people that are huge advocates of Creatio would definitely possibly balk at the fact that there's printables and we can do a lot of this, but yes, it's just not as user-friendly and intuitive. The way Formstack does it is intended to be very user-friendly, whereas the Creatio printables can be a little bit challenging, and it only works if you've got a Windows-based Microsoft Word application that you can then install the Creatio plugin. So there's some gaps that this definitely solves, and it also extends the capabilities of Creatio by quite a bit, just with the 3 products that are offered by Formstack. So from a Forms perspective, you've got the ability of collecting unauthenticated data from completely new individuals or people that have reached a form that you've placed out in the wonderful world of the internet to fill out, that you can then collect that information within Creatio. You have the ability to send pre-filled forms to people to validate their information. Eventually, we're going to have part of an enhancement to the Formstack Forms connector, probably version 1.3 or 1.2. we're going to make it so that whenever someone fills out a form, you can actually put in an attachment, and that attachment can flow directly within Creatio as well. So there's plenty more planned for the Formstack Forms connector, the Formstack Documents connector. As I mentioned, we are definitely looking at giving people the ability to set a simple flag within the business process so that they can indicate at what point in time they want the document to be stored. So here in this example, we've only stored the document once it's fully executed. There may be some use cases where you just want to store a generated document, and that would allow users to define at what point that document should be stored within Creatio. And on the sign piece, we are really just focusing on bringing in finalized documents from the Formstack Documents product. So that is it. I hope you found this video informational. If you have any other questions, comments, concerns, we're here to help. Formstack at ss-adv.com, or you can reach our office at area code 918-882-0882. Thank you very much for your time. Have a wonderful day.